What if I can't stop sinning? God hasn't given up on you yet. You said you wouldn't do it again. You meant it this time. You prayed before bed, asked God for strength, maybe even felt peace for a moment. And then, somehow, you fell right back into the same sin. Again. Now it's quiet. Just you and that heavy feeling. The guilt, the disappointment. That voice in your head whispering, "You're never going to change." You try to pray, but the words feel stuck. You wonder if God is tired of hearing the same apology over and over. I've been in that place, where you want to love God with all your heart, but something keeps pulling you back. The Bible doesn't pretend this struggle isn't real. In fact, it speaks directly into this exact pain. Paul writes in Romans 7:19, "For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing." That's not a distant, perfect person speaking. That's someone who knew God deeply and still wrestled. So if you feel trapped in a cycle you can't break, if you're tired of failing in the same place, hear this clearly. Your struggle is not proof that God has abandoned you. It may be the very place where He is still working on you. Number 1, the struggle with sin does not mean you are lost. That tension you feel, the frustration, a heart that is far from God doesn't wrestle like this. It doesn't grieve over sin. It doesn't keep coming back, asking for forgiveness. The Bible makes this clear. There is a difference between someone who is indifferent to sin and someone who is broken by it. It's correction. It's a sign that you belong to Him. But you do care, and that matters more than you think. This doesn't mean sin is small or acceptable. It means your relationship with God is still alive, even in the middle of your struggle. You are not fighting to earn your place. You are fighting because you already belong. And yet, even knowing this, the battle doesn't just disappear because something deeper is happening inside you. Number 2, your flesh and your spirit are at war. There are moments when you feel strong, and then moments when you feel like you have no control at all. It's confusing. Your spirit has been awakened by God. It longs for righteousness, for peace, for purity. But your flesh, the part of you shaped by old habits and desires, still pulls in the opposite direction. That's why sometimes you genuinely want to do what is right, and still find yourself choosing what you hate. It's not because your faith is fake. It's because the battle is real. But here's the danger. If you misunderstand this, you might either excuse your sin, thinking it doesn't matter, or condemn yourself completely, thinking you're beyond hope. God calls you to do neither. He calls you to recognize the battle and keep walking in the Spirit even when it's hard. Number 3, there is a difference between falling and living in sin. That cycle you're in, falling, regretting, coming back, it can make you feel like nothing is changing, like you're stuck in the same place. But the Bible draws a clear line that many people miss. Falling into sin is not the same as living in sin. That means returning, admitting, not hiding, not pretending. They may fall into it, but they don't settle there. Something inside keeps pulling them back. That pull you feel, the urge to pray again, to ask for forgiveness again, that's not weakness. That's evidence of a heart that hasn't given up. God is not ignoring your struggle. He sees every time you get back up. But if you're honest, getting back up can feel exhausting because you've been trying to win this battle the same way over and over again. Number 4, you cannot defeat sin by willpower alone. You've tried to be stronger, more disciplined, more careful. Because when you rely only on yourself, you will keep running into the same wall. Not because you don't care, but because you're trying to fight a spiritual battle with human effort. Real change doesn't start with trying harder. It starts with staying closer. Closer in prayer, closer in dependence, closer in surrender, even when you feel weak. Because once you begin to rely on Him instead of yourself, you start to understand something deeper about grace and why it's not what many people think it is. Number 5, grace is not permission to sin, it is power to rise again. There's a quiet fear many people carry. If I lean too much on grace, won't I just keep sinning? It sounds honest, but it misunderstands what grace really is. Grace is not God looking at your sin and saying, "It doesn't matter." Grace is God meeting you in your weakness and saying, "Get up, let's keep going." In Romans 6:14 it says, "For sin will have no dominion over you, since you are not under law but under grace." Grace doesn't make sin harmless. It breaks sin's control over you. When you truly understand grace, something shifts inside. You don't run toward sin. You run back to God faster when you fall. You stop hiding. You stop pretending. You stop thinking you have to fix yourself before coming to Him. Because you realize you are not fighting for acceptance. You are fighting from it. And that changes how you see every failure. Not as the end, but as a moment to return. Still, even with that truth, there's a deeper fear that lingers in many hearts. What if I never really change? Number 6, God sees your direction, not just your failures. The times we fell the hardest, the times we promised and broke it again. But God doesn't look at you the way you look at yourself. He looks at the direction of your heart. In Proverbs 24:16 it says, "For the righteous falls 7 times and rises again, but the wicked stumble in times of calamity." The difference is not that one never falls, it's that one keeps getting back up. Every time you turn back to God, every time you confess, every time you refuse to give up, you are moving in the right direction, even if it feels slow. God is not counting your failures the way you are. He is watching your return, and your return matters more than your fall. You may feel stuck, but if you're still coming back, you are not the same person you were before. And that leads to one final truth you need to hold on to, because you were never meant to fight this battle alone. Number 7, you are not fighting alone. The Holy Spirit is in you. That inner tension you feel, that discomfort when you sin, that quiet voice urging you to come back, that's not just your conscience. That is the Holy Spirit at work within you. In Galatians 5:16 it says, "But I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh." God didn't just give you instructions, He gave you His presence. The Holy Spirit is not distant. You ones of canas treasure other for Dio. He is with you in the moment of temptation, in the moment after you fall, in the moment you decide to return. He convicts, but He also strengthens. He corrects, but He also comforts. You are not trying to change yourself from the outside. God is working in you from the inside. And even when progress feels slow, even when you don't see it clearly, He is still working. Because God does not begin something and leave it unfinished. Conclusion: when you feel like you can't stop. So what do you do when you feel like you can't stop sinning? You don't stop coming back. You don't wait until you feel worthy. You don't disappear in shame. You come back, again and again, because that's exactly where God meets you. This journey is not about becoming perfect overnight. It's about refusing to walk away even when you fall. You may feel weak, you may feel tired, but the fact that you are still turning back, still listening, still wanting something different, that matters. You are not beyond grace. You are not disqualified. And you are not alone. So don't define yourself by how many times you've failed. Define yourself by this: You are still returning to God. And as long as you keep returning, your story is still being written